The following preview was begrudgingly approved for all audiences.
You're listening to Elevator Music.
Welcome back to Forward Thinking, presented by the Professional Collegiate League. I'm Ricky Vellante, and I'll be joined by my co-host, two-time NBA champion, David West. As usual, we'll be talking about those challenging the status quo, doing social good, and bringing about positive change to the world, while also talking a little bit of sports. In this episode, we'll be joined by two-time NBA All-Star Baron Davis to discuss his career, as well as his off-the-court pursuits in film, television, investments, and entrepreneurial ventures. He also dives into basketball being the closest form of art in sports and the importance of confidence in whatever you're doing. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or check us out at thepcleague.com/forwardthinking. For all the latest updates on the PCL, we're on Twitter at @the_PC League and Instagram at the PC League. Thanks for tuning in.
We're now joined by a very special guest, one of my very first teammates, one of my very first vets, the incomparable Baron Davis, NBA legend, started the current trend of big explosive guard in the league, and we're very, very honored and happy to have you on our Forward Thinking podcast. Appreciate you joining us, Boom.
Appreciate it, bro. Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir.
He was like the rookie who was older than all the vets.
For sure, man. That I remember, getting drafted to New Orleans, and it was actually I was the first draft pick after you guys had left Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out, sort of just my way in the NBA, and I remember you were one of the first guys that I spoke to after I was drafted. And one of the first things you said to me was, "Hey, man, don't take this shit so serious." So serious. Because I remember I was so nervous. I was asking proper questions. And you were like, "Hey, man, just don't take this shit so serious." And that's one of the things I always remember because you kind of broke the ice that way. And, it was important not to come in, into the NBA, trying to stress myself to death, trying to prove myself or anything like that. Yeah. So I wanted to start.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, bro. You know what I mean? You was nice. As a rookie, you know what I mean? It was just like you were professional. You was a good player. You should have played more.
I remember that, right?
Felt like you should have played more. When I had you out there, it was easy dons. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wish I could have played with you more too, man, in our career and shit. I think after I left, they kind of started building a team around you.
Right.
Chris Paul, but I let Chris Paul have that. You know what I mean?
It was a great start because I tell people, man, I was fortunate, man. Well, in two hands. Like in one regard, I was drafted to New Orleans, and at the time, when I got drafted, that was the oldest team in the NBA. But
was it?
Yeah, everybody didn't realize that, but that was the oldest team in the NBA. And the crazy thing about it was everybody was expecting me to go through like the crazy rookie stuff, and I was like, man, these guys ain't tripping on that. Like that's one of the things. I never went through the whole rookie thing because we had a team full of guys that just weren't tripping on that anymore. So that was always good, man.
And, like to keep it a buck, like you got to see like one of the worst ran organizations up close and personal.
Right.
All the shit that was going on, the way they was treating the players.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the fake doctors, all that shit, like training in the Lario Center before. Like, come on, dog. Like,
right.
You wasn't even supposed to see that. Like when I came in, I didn't really see nothing like that. But like because it was so many vets, like dudes was like, "Nah, man, like you need to see this." You know what I mean? Because this is what it is. The way that even from like when everybody started getting hurt that one year, you know what I mean?
Right.
They was just putting people in the game, dog.
Right. I remember. Right.
24-hour fitness to train. You feel what I'm saying? I was like, nah, we ain't going for this shit. You feel what I'm saying? And I think that ultimately, like, I was the youngest vet. I was like the renegade. You feel what I'm saying? Like I wasn't taking up for none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? And I think after that, it was like, oh, maybe he was right. And then it started to change. And like y'all start getting the right pieces, y'all start getting the right players. You feel what I'm saying? Start going to the playoffs. You know what I mean? CP came in. Had it not been for us fighting that fight, we still be practicing while they having an NRA meet. I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? I'm not going to practice, yo. They got rifle shit in here. You know what I mean?
Right.
We are likely suspects.
As a rookie, I just thought that was the norm. I just thought that that's what everybody was kind of going through. And I didn't understand what facilities were supposed to look like. I didn't understand the layers of support, that should have existed.
Yeah.
But again, I'm thankful that I had the right vets, in place, because they never let me trip on that. Like, it was like one rule. I remember one rule, and it was Stacey Augman. He was like, look, man, just don't let us beat you in here. And I was like, that's it? He was like, that's it, man. I couldn't come wander into the gym 10 minutes before practice. I just had to be in the gym before the older guys got there. That was it. I ain't had to do none of that other crazy stuff. So that was always a big piece for me, man. What let me ask you this though, B. You always have this sort of inner confidence. What would be something that you could tell to a young player somewhere how to build that, and not only allow that to be his, a part of his basketball, but a part of his like everyday, like no matter where you go, you exude this confidence?
I would say one, just like humbling myself as a point guard. I was always humble around other point guards, because it was just like, if I could soak up what Nick Van Exel was doing, or Rod Strickland, or Jason Kidd, you know what I mean? If I could sponge what they had, you feel what I'm saying? Or Chris Paul, you know what I mean? Eat Bobby Brown, all the dudes I'd be around, I'd just be like, I'd just be trying to soak up and sponge their perspective. So I think being humble, for one, like gets you in a comfortable space to know, like, yo, like I can fuck up. So what?
Right.
Like and then also like not taking yourself so serious, knowing that life is, full of mistakes. And the mistakes you make should be like an opportunity for you to learn. Even like when you practicing, right? So all this shit, like humble in practice, mean like I gotta be of service to you, David West. I gotta figure out how to make you great, right? That should be what I walk into the gym thinking, right? I should be so comfortable and so confident and so humble, right, that I'm willing to serve my teammates and make them better, right? Because I'm absorbing all the good things that they are and exploit that, right? And I think the same thing for a point guard, like pace. Just know how to pace yourself. Not being afraid to make mistakes, but if you move with pace, right, and you figure out your pace, like a rapper figures out his cadence, like a producer figures out his sound, like an artist figures out how they paint. Like, I remember in practice, like, I used to turn the ball over all the time. Coach be tripping, but it'd be like, dude, I know if I don't turn this ball over, if I turn this ball over in the game, it's going to cost us. If I turn it over in practice, then I can be like, hey, dog, that's what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? So it's also like getting, not being afraid to get your teammates to rock with your style. That's why I feel like you need these super teams, because you ain't got enough to do it yourself.
Is that a confidence thing? Because I'll tell you, because I've got different perspectives.
It's a confidence thing, and it is also it goes back to like management, because when you look at like the dynamics of super teams, right? Like OKC was already a super team. They built that. Harden, Westbrook, KD, Perkins,
Jeff Green.
Right.
They were tough.
Ibaka.
Right.
Great. They cannot put that back together if they try, bro.
Right.
They would spend double whatever their payroll is right now to like just to have that, right?
So you're saying there's two ways to get there? Because there's two ways to get there.
Yeah, you need both. You need upper management, and you need like the right team, right, with the right understanding, and then you need the right individual superstars that could play together.
Right.
And you gotta build it around that. You know what I mean? And then they have to be able to like coexist.
Right. How do you feel? How do you feel about this? The way that the game is now, it drives me crazy because I actually remember again from my rookie year, there were a couple games where I ran. I basically, we played against other rookies, and I did maybe a little dap or something like that. And one of the older guys was like, "Hey, yo, man, don't be talking to this. Like it wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to do that. Now, after every NBA game, guys are hugging. It's like the end of a playoff series after every NBA game. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because that's something that I think has drastically, been overlooked in terms of what the NBA looks like now. Because that wasn't happening when I first came in the league. And I think that also has something to do with the willingness of guys to play with one another. Like it's just a different time. Yeah.
It's a different time, bro. I mean, honestly, I wish it was cool to do that. It was like when I came, like imagine when I came in.
Right.
It was like you better not talk to me, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this the homie. You know what I mean? But
right.
it was like it was just the intensity, bro.
Yeah, it was different, right?
Every game, it was almost like the intensity that was created and the rivalry and like the stories. It was almost like you were part of like these different like rap beefs. You know what I mean? It's like when you're a rookie, you walk in like, hey, bro, we don't get down with them. You know what I mean? And
right.
Of 8 years of playoff history. You know what I mean? Could have had a fight 3 years ago. It's just like, or homeboy is just, he dirty. It was a lot of like sharing of information, sharing of these stories, and these war stories was just being passed down. So you already knew, like, I don't mess with Milwaukee like that.
Right.
We can't get it. We can't, okay, oh, you over here in Milwaukee? Okay, cool. New Orleans, Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like, it was just certain little things. Like, you knew you could not, like, as much as I love AI, I wasn't asking them to swap jerseys, you know what I mean, at the end of the game during the regular season, right?
Right.
I'll probably do that in the locker room, you know what I mean, when everybody goes. But, I kind of wish we did have that, because then it probably would have been a little bit more freedom to, like, maneuver out there, right?
I got you.
Pressure on, like, running plays, like, a lot of that hugging, and a lot of, like, all that, like, it shows in the game, too. Like, the game has so much more freedom and fun.
Right.
That now I think that it had to go through that, and now you're starting to see these guys create their rivalry. Ultimately, now it's just a matter of the league starting to allow some of this to happen. It ain't like how it was. You know what I mean?
Right.
When it was like real beefs. It's like, yo, why do basketball players fight each other? You know what I mean? It ain't like that no more. They all go to the club. They all play AAU together. You know what I mean? They all go to camps and things. USA basketball. So it's like there's so much stuff now that they already was like teammates before. So the love is there, and they kind of like are all growing together.
Now, do you think that has hindered the physicality in the game? Because, again, I remember, when I came in the NBA, there was a level of physicality that was almost expected. Like, I remember when I was like, PJ and Big Cat were like teaching me how to like hard foul. Like, you really got to give a foul. Yeah. And I had to learn that. Those are things that are not, I guess, expected in the game.
Yeah.
So has that hurt the game in your opinion at all?
Absolutely. When you look at some of the major games that be on like ABC, ESPN, be blowouts.
Right.
It's like, how are the top two teams getting together in the regular season for the first time and it's a blowout? That means there's no control. That means like the way that the game is being called, right, is not really lending to any type of structure, right? And they value the three so much and protecting the jump shooter and the 3-point so much that anything that happens below the 3-point line is a foul, right? So the game has been played with way more 3-pointers, way more free throws, and it's been played at a quicker pace, right? So they're allowing like you get down to the end of games, it's like so many games have been decided, just because of just bad calls or missed calls, or why'd you call that when you called that? And I think there's so much pressure now on the referees because these dudes are more athletic. They shoot from distance. You know what I mean? The game is different. And the value is not in post play. Dudes don't even really play one-on-one. You don't see nobody throw the ball in the block. Why wouldn't you down the stretch throw the ball to Giannis in the block? Let him go one-on-one inside the free throw line.
Well, I remember when was it? It was last year or the year before last. My first year I retired, and the Warriors were playing the Rockets, and KD got hurt. Right, I think it was KD. KD goes down, and I said to myself then, I said, if they had played a team, because the Rockets aren't built to have a post-up player or anybody to play out of the post with KD out, the Rockets should have been able to. And I think if the Warriors are against any team, if the Warriors are playing the Spurs, if they're playing,
take advantage of it.
Right, they take advantage. They just throw the ball in the post and force the Warriors to play that game. The Rockets couldn't do it, and they were unable to get by them. And I've always thought that was a metaphor for what the league looks like, and the detriment to leaving out that part of the game, because the way they've gone now, it's more so. If you looked at Michael Jordan as a player, Michael Jordan wouldn't fit in the context of the current NBA structure because all he did was post-ups and mostly mid-range, 16 to 20-foot jumpers. And he was crazy one-on-one. So I just feel like that we've got to find the balance in the game somewhere.
I think that goes to general managers. Right? Okay. You start looking at the league, you look at the structure, and it's as we know, every team copycats every team.
Right.
Right. And so now everybody is trying to get an athletic big who goes to the rim, a point guard who can score and shoot. But it's the Warriors built that. They drafted that, bro.
Right.
They got that in free agency. They knew the value of a David West. They knew the value of an Andrew Bogut. They knew to take Draymond Green and build, you know what I mean? Draymond built himself into that. Klay Thompson built himself into that. Steph Curry built himself into that. I think where the Warriors were so good early on was going and grabbing Iguodala, going and grabbing Shaun Livingston, right? And so you have these kind of multi-dimensional guys that come from this old school nature of playing.
Right.
That's oh shit, we can play like this? This is a lot free. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when the going get tough, we know where the mismatch is to go bully somebody. And the Warriors, when you guys won and were winning the championships, it wasn't the 3-point shots.
It wasn't, right?
It wasn't the 3-point shots, bro.
Right.
It was the putbacks. It was the pump fakes, the bank shots. It was the layups, right?
Layups, right.
It was more layups. You guys were getting more layups than anybody. That's how the Warriors lost this year to Toronto. Toronto got more layups inside the paint. The game is always going to be won inside the paint, right? And I think that we're glorifying the perimeter because, down the stretch, if it's oh, he hit a three, I hit it, that is that's damn near better than a dunk. You know what I mean? If dudes get hot, go back to back and catch fire, especially with the way they shoot now. Right. But if you're trying to win a championship, the game is going to be won in the paint. And you don't see no teams in the championship without having some type of presence or some type of player who spends their life in the paint. Steph Curry was not shooting and hitting those ridiculous threes in the finals the way he shoots in the season. And so every time that what he would consider his own heat check to get him in rhythm, it's 10 times more pressure on that shot. So now he got to turn that shot down and figure out damn, where my heat check shot coming from?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's the finals, bro. You dig what I'm saying? And that's where the games are won.
Right.
It's won in the paint. I think, people like Joel Embiid, Jokic, dudes like that, they're incredible. Be able to play out on the perimeter and things like that. But down the stretch, the smart coach, the smart GMs is going to build a team that can win in the last 6 minutes of the game. So you want to have enough assets So in the last 6 minutes of the game, you know you have the best 5 or 7 guys that you can rely on. It seems like teams are saying, okay, we're going to pick a style whether we win or lose. It doesn't work. We'll bring in a new coach, pick a style, win or lose. And it's like we used to seeing like competitive basketball, not people like trying shit. So this is the first time we're seeing like teams commit to losing. Even the teams that were the worst teams, it was like they were only bad because probably like their 2 best players were hurt or they were young or, you know what I mean, trying to figure it out. But they were still competitive in today's day and age because some people are using that shit as development and not really trying to win it all.
I guess that'll segue me into my next question, which is a basketball question, but it's more or less on the, like you talked about, the management side. So if you look at the Houston Rockets and, again, Harden has done his thing. I think James Harden is who he is, and the success that they've had down there. But my question for you would be more or less around the building of teams. What do you think about this? The NBA, and the NBA's done it, or the Rockets have done it more specifically, using sort of a non-basketball formula to, shape and build a team. What are your thoughts about that? Like having non-basketball people, because I'm very passionate about that part. I think that in certain circumstances, you just need people who have the experience from being inside the web, right, to sort of help craft. I think that's why the Warriors, are going to be able to bounce back because they have a lot of basketball. You know how many basketball people they have.
Look, the basketball, like when it comes to basketball, and you're in the Western Conference Finals, and you need all the prayers you can get. You need all the hope, right, and the love, right. If you ain't got no people upstairs that care, that is like, it's a job, and don't have like, imagine when you was hooping, like all the Warrior fans who were just calling on the basketball guys and their prayers, dog. You know what I'm saying? In the organization who had something, like you got Jerry West there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you have,
yeah, that's a legacy, bro.
Yeah, but there's an important, I just feel like right now there's this space, this weird space that exists
between, they're trying to make basketball technology,
right? And they don't have the element. Teams like the Rockets, where Phoenix is going through this now for the last God knows how many years. Yeah. Phoenix is one of the best cities, one of the best NBA cities. They should never have a bad team, but they don't have enough basketball people, in my opinion, in positions of influence
at all
to change the nature of that organization.
You can just start going down the chain of command, dude.
Right.
You can start going down the chain of command. Like, my whole thing is, why wouldn't you bring back those important veterans? Like, why wouldn't you, if you're going to treat it like a company, treat it like a committee, advisory board, have some of those old vets, have some of your legends being able to sit on the floor, sit around. Like, that's going to make the players play better. That's who they playing for. And for like that legacy, they playing because they know, dog, if Jerry West say, I'm good, I'm good. No matter what my contract say. You can make it $20 million a year, right? But if you can't walk through that tunnel and dudes is like, what's up, homie? It's your peers, right? And it's also like the OGs and the legends and the people like that. And like, you want legacy people around because that energy is the energy you need around building a culture. When you look at someone like the Houston Rockets, James Harden has been carrying that organization by himself. He's played with 7 different styles of teams. Like you got close one year, when you had Capella, Trevor, and all of, you know what I mean? But like
no consistency,
in like a 3 or 4 year in this 5-year MVP stretch.
Right. And he's been on a hell of a run too, man. I feel for a guy like that because I feel like the way that they've shaped those teams around him, they haven't made the best basketball decision.
There's the only challenge and the only goal that can be set is the goal that he sets for himself. Now, him and Russ got to take that with him. And there's no like damn near Mario bungees, happening in the organization that.
It goes back to organizational culture.
I don't know the relationship with Akeem. I don't know the relationship with Steve Francis. I don't know the relationship with a Clyde Drexler or a Kenny Smith. Or if James don't have that, or if he don't have Jerry West, or you know what I mean, an Isaiah Thomas or a Dumars, or you know what I mean, somebody just be like, yo, man, from hooper to hooper, like I'm trying to be the greatest. Like he is trying to be the greatest ever. Right? Russ is trying to be the greatest ever in his space. You feel what I'm saying? And so that's not an experiment, because if you're experimenting, that means you're just as bad as the Phoenix Suns. I remember that trade that they made with the Clippers when they brought CP over. He was right there.
Right. Got to make it work.
If you got a James Harden. You got, you got to make it work if you got a Giannis. But at least Milwaukee has that culture.
Yeah.
You can tell. You can feel it. You know what I mean? You can feel it. It feels like a basketball community. You can see it. You know what I mean? When you go there. So it's really like about the teams and the culture that they want to build, right? And if it's real or if it's not. I think even for the Warriors, they had an incredible culture in the beginning, right? And the Warriors start winning. It created a certain prestige in culture. And then, but at the same time, they never lost track of their roots.
Never.
Even though they're losing this year and they're having a bad year, right? They still have championship pedigree. And that's what you have to build, right, as an organization, holistically.
How critical would you say it is also to draft and develop your own talent? Because I think you've talked a little bit about that, like with the Warriors, Steph, Clay, Dre, all those guys that they drafted and developed and brought up within that culture. But you don't have that at the Rockets organization. They're constantly making the trades. They're never drafting and developing their own talent.
Because then, like to D West's point, they don't have anybody there.
Yeah, it's lack of basketball people.
Yeah, they didn't. They. It's a lot of pressure. I would say, and I didn't know this. I just, but you can tell. But it's a lot of pressure. You can tell on Harden and the coaching staff, and like it stops almost like right there, even to the point of just the branding of the organization, the way the organization is portrayed, right? You know what I mean? The marketing, all the things that I look at, outside of just the gameplay, you can tell that, James is carrying this bag, right? The coaching staff have all these bricks to carry, you know what I mean? It's really just kind of like putting the basketball culture that they have, right, is putting so much pressure on them, right, to figure it out. And that just shows you how good they are. But you're giving the coach 7 different teams. You're giving the main players 7 different teams. Like they keep getting close, and you keep making them start from scratch.
I don't want to keep piling on them, but I just think that because they were so vocal about we're going to go with the analytics way and we're going to pick analytics people and we got analytics people making decisions about our basketball roster and our basketball world. I think that they're the case study. Like, they put all the chips on the table toward analytics, and it just hasn't, in my opinion, it hasn't warranted the respect that they think we should give it.
So I think when you start thinking about like data and analytics, when it comes to percentages and things like that, it starts to like mess with, like you can't measure your heart, you can't measure your mind, right?
It strips out the human element.
Yeah, you can't measure like the focus.
I just think that I think it's sometimes when people make the decision to use analytics as a structural tool as opposed to like just a side note, like it's a way for you to analyze certain things, but you should not use an analytic sort of approach to develop your basketball identity. And I think that's where we haven't, and I say we, I'm talking about guys who played the game, we haven't been able to get that point of view across, particularly the young players. Because I tell young players all the time, you can't create yourself or try to mold yourself into a basketball player based on some analytic context. You got to think about, like, again, like you said, your confidence, like who you actually are. What are your physical traits? Like, your strength, like what are your abilities? Do you have the courage to do certain things? Like, you know how it goes. So to me, it's always this balance we're seeking to fight. And when organizations like Houston declare that, hey, we're doing this because we've got this identity around analytics, young players think that, hey, man, I just got to, if I go out and try to build myself like a Houston Rockets player, like a James Harden, then I'm going to give myself a shot. But we all know that Harden is a one of a kind, right? You're not getting ready to recreate James Harden. No, and that's part of the conversation that I think we got to be more vocal about, because that helps guys from making these decisions like, I'm going to be a basketball player based on some analytical context that you and I know. It's like you can't really develop yourself that way. You're not going to be able to develop the certain parts of yourself internally and physically that you need if you're thinking about this analytic approach to the game.
It's happening to the kids too. They're getting away, like the kids are seeing the end result. And so the coaches are working them out to the end result. Playing against this kid, dude, I swear I was like, this kid is definitely going D1. He had the coldest step back, like 16 years old, coldest step back. Right step back, left step back, crossover step back. And I'm older now, dude. So I was like, damn, dude, like, all he doing is like crossover step back. I'm like, hold on, let me like sit on this step back and see what else he can do. He had nothing else.
Wow.
When he could not step back behind that line and I pushed him in front of that line, it was almost like he became a totally different person. Right? And his only move was a step back. You got to coach these kids in fundamentals. And like Steph Curry is fundamentally sound. James Harden, fundamentally sound. You know what I mean? And
right. So, I remember you told me that about Kobe. You were like, you know why Kobe's so good? The dude he's fundamentally basic.
His sound.
Right. And I remember sitting there watching one of the first times I saw him. I remember you saying that, like, yo, this dude, like, it was his grasp of the fundamentals. But when all you see is the end result, you don't understand the process of getting there. Yeah.
And I think another thing is, it's like talking about fundamentals, talking about the basics, talking about the process, talking about creating your own identity. Right. Another thing that just to put analytics in their place, right? The thing that analytics is killing about basketball is the perfect merge of art and sport. Yeah. Right. And analytics is confusing
the art form.
Right? So it's like, think about it like the record business, right? All the rappers sound the same, right? Or it's like they're giving deals to this trend of character or that trend of character. So like if the NBA says that small ball is the thing, then you would be a fool to go and build the team that you want to build because there's so much pressure to say like, I need, an auto-tune point guard. You know what I mean?
Right.
No aid base, you know what I mean? Power forward or something like that. So everybody's trying to find the next AD, trying to find the next LeBron, trying to build the next, Melo or Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. But these dudes are self-originated. They said, you know what? Okay, great. You told me, like, they look at the stats and say, all right, cool. Why did we lose? Right? Not how much did I have.
Right.
where on this stat sheet, when you watch the stat sheet, like where on this stat sheet did we lose in these numbers? Right? That's why we used to watch the stat sheet, right? And then you look at your line to see like where did you contribute in the stat sheet that could determine the win or loss. And then you start to go back and then you start thinking about all the plays that you participated in and how that could have turned or what you may have said to a teammate. You know what I mean? All that. And so when you start removing all that and you just give them data and say, man, here was your plus minus, you played good. No, you didn't. And that's why you have to award, you know what I mean? And shout out to the players because they're not getting the freedom. Like, we don't know what Michael Kidd-Gilchrist could have been because he was forced to, he has an ugly shot, he can't shoot. But what else can he do? You know what I mean? He could have wound up being a Draymond Green, right? He could have wound up being Montrezl Harrell. He could have wound up being a top-notch defender, Markelle Fultz. Yeah. Shout out to him. That is a player that's like, man, I'm an artist. This is my art. This is my life. This is my lifestyle. This is my swag. I'm going to get mine the way I get mine. And guess what? His shot going to get better. He going to get better. And all of a sudden, people are going to start eating their words, right? But it's the players who are trying to be, like you said, trying to define themselves in another person's shadow without realizing that they should be.
Right. Well, you see, what you're doing is what I always advocate for, and it's introducing like reality to young players. And part of what we have in terms of grassroots in basketball in this country, the deficiency we have is we're unable to give kids that reality. So like what you just said, right, is something that some coach will never say to some kid. He will rather string this kid along, have the kid playing for his AAU team, being able to get some of these guys.
Wear him out before he gets there, right?
Right.
Not even, you know what I mean? It's like they wear the kids out before they can even get to college.
Right.
To be a Steph Curry.
Right. And they're not giving them what they need. Right. And they're not telling them the truth. Like, Steph Curry is a one of a kind. His background determines why he is the way he is. Like who his father was, right? Like all of that goes into it.
Yes, bro.
Like dude's father was like one of the greatest shooters ever, right? So people constantly overlook that, and I'm like, it's hard, man. It's really hard, at times I think to fight that noise for some of these young. I'm in grassroots sports, man, and I'm really invested in young people, so I feel it, and I'm like, people really have some of these kids out here shaping their identity around this unrealistic, dream of being Steph Curry or being.
Well, it's like they'll take a kid for their 15 minutes of fame. You know what I mean? And so, like a lot of coaches, you have to be wary. A lot of coaches, a lot of parents, right? They are so anxious to like find the star, right? Or create a star instead of giving, these players the foundational tools and elements to be well-rounded players or good players and appreciators of the game, because then it just gives you better DNA as a person.
Right.
And it gives you fundamental elements, right? Now you have a canvas. Now you got a paintbrush. Now you know how to paint. Now go start taking your walk. But like a lot of these dudes already, like, they're stars before they even take, you know what I mean? Like people are buying into their paintings before they even on the national stage. But I think it's a combination of just basketball and where it is. It's like we have to do a better job of like guys who are out of the game, right? We have to find our way back into the game because I feel like for us, like basketball has been such a part of our lifestyle that we shouldn't leave it alone. We need to share these stories. We need these mini documentaries. We need these short form content to just, one, continue to praise each other, uplift each other, show more players that there are, opportunities to be a David West, or like to see like, I'm built like that. You know what I mean? Like I like him. Like give them more variety of different players that they can adapt to and they can learn from, because now as time is speeding fast ahead, these kids are learning less and less and less about the game. You were a student of the game.
Right.
And you could tell when you were a rookie how you reacted, whether through play or just like who you were a fan of.
Right.
And when we share those stories, right, those stories get shared. It makes people like a little bit more comfortable to like realize that, like, you know what, dude, if I keep going this Steph Curry route, if I keep going this James Harden route, like, I ain't gonna build too many friends. I ain't gonna be that good when it all check out.
Right.
So I can like them, I can pattern my game, but it's also important. Like, I don't believe that I'm going to be, you know what I mean?
Right, that reality. You got to build your own, right, build your own base, right.
Something else that we talk quite a bit about is how diversified he is off the court, how basketball was not necessarily the only thing that defined him. How important do you think that is? And obviously with yourself, you've got Black Santa Company, your production company, your video game company, you've been acting, writing, producing, directing. How important is all of that in terms of holistic development of the person to improve the quality of your play on the court?
It's my art form. You know what I mean? I realized that, I was different than a lot of NBA dudes. Like, I saw the game different than a lot of NBA dudes, probably the majority of them, right? I acted differently, you know what I mean? I had a different perspective. But when you look back from when I started to when I left, or, you know what I mean? It was just, I was an artist trying to figure out how to be the artist that all of your peers like, or all of your peers respected. And that's a tough place to navigate because you have to, you know what I mean? You have to lead, you have to follow, you have to stand out, you know what I mean? And you got to stand up for yourself as well as other people. And so for me, it's like, I just build a business around that.
Right.
I just build a business for standing up for other people, man, and servicing other people. And like, just always thinking about, that making that winning play or that winning assist for an entrepreneur. And then as an artist, like, I just keep creating my art, man, just keep creating my art. Like, I still keep basketball in my life. I love basketball.
Right.
I feel like there's so many basketball stories to tell. So I'm just going to start, making my way and telling these stories, right? And telling, not only these stories, but like finding the characters in this world and in this world of sports that, like we relate to, that we would laugh at, you know what I mean? And like, just like open up people's palette to one, say like, we're more than just,
right.
Basketball players. And that's what I was really trying to do. I was trying to let people see that basketball players were artists, right? That's why I was doing movies. That's why I was like messing with the game and rap. That's why I was like, I was trying to do it right to show a lot of the players like, yo, we're closer to the artists than we are closer to like corporate brands. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we don't really have to start sacrificing ourselves, you know what I mean, to like all try to be Kobe or all try to be Michael Jordan or Tim Duncan or Kevin Garnett, you know what I mean? Or Ray Allen. Like, we ain't all cookie cutter.
Right.
We are all artists, you know what I mean? And neither are those dudes. And you need to understand that they have a different type of pedigree in a way that they fought, you know what I mean? Got to
Right.
where they are. So it's like, our brotherhood is something that, I feel strong about. I try to protect. And now it's just creating that through, visuals and content and documentaries.
Right.
Things like that.
Good. Yeah, that's kind of, that question I was asking in the beginning is what gave you that confidence to not be, that's the one thing that I think you exude, like I said, more than anything, is that ability to be confident in a very, in a host of different environments. And it's not solely just in that basketball sense. It's your business, acumen and your willingness to explore other aspects of life and also maintain your dominant. I mean, you were a dominant guard in the league for a long time. So you're able to, be a dominant player at your position, then also be able to develop and evolve other parts of yourself that, that can carry you now, which I think is, is highly commendable, because you and I both know that there are a lot of players who are now retired who regret not taking the time to develop other aspects of themselves, and they find themselves right now, in some tough situations.
Yeah, and I'm having fun, dog.
Right.
When you knew me, when you were a rookie, I was my own agent. I'm going to blow away my career. You know what I mean? I'm going to blow away in myself. And so at that point, it was like, well, I should be my own agent. I should build my own thing, and kind of like did everything that I wanted to do, right? If I played it over, maybe I would have built a team that I needed, but it was good for me to be able to say, all right, next summer, I'm going to work on a movie, right? And then in the middle of the season, like already know what I'm going to do with my brand just to like keep myself busy while I'm working out. And so that's kind of like what it is, bro. I appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir. I got 2 more questions. Boom. And first question is just about your morning routine. What is the importance of just getting up, starting your day? Are you an early morning riser? I mean, when I was younger, I was a guy that struggled to get up, but as we've moved more into this mindfulness age and things like that, people are very cognizant of having morning routines. So just for our listeners, man, trying to figure out what you do, like what's the first thing you think about or do in the morning?
I try and beat the sun up. And then as the sun coming up, I start to just appreciate life and understand that everything is waking up. Right. Some people won't wake up, you know what I mean? Some people wake up with, different challenges, and just be appreciative first. And then just try and from that point, just go see my kids, be positive with them. Right. But my morning routine is beat the sun up, you know what I mean? Just like some form of meditation. When the sun come up, just I want to soak up all of that beginning day energy, you know what I mean? Because it's positive energy and positive light. So if I can catch it as it's rising, and then I can also catch it as it's setting, I like sunsets. I just feel like it's just an appreciation to the day of chaos that we might endure, you know what I mean? So we're going to fill ourselves with positivity, and we're going to make sure that we show appreciation towards the end of the day. And that's just really how I kind of base my day, and then just kind of taking time out, take a moment, find your pace.
And then the last one is fail up moment. So did you have a point in your career somewhere where things didn't work out, where you failed, but you used that as a moment to catapult yourself into that next stratosphere?
Yeah, I would say when I got traded from New Orleans, I would say it was a combination of me acting out. Demands weren't met. They wasn't trying to build no real team around us. And, I didn't behave the way I wanted to. I was my own agent, so I didn't, I wanted to get out, and I did not handle myself. You know what I mean? I wasn't the confident dude in the gym. You know what I mean? I wasn't the confident dude. I had lost a part of myself. And so I would say when I never forget, me and Byron Scott had a crazy beef. And it had nothing to do with Byron Scott. You know what I mean? I wasn't really around the team at the time. And I would say that moment, then going to Golden State, right? And then being in Golden State and taking that and saying, you know what? I'm going to be professional, bro. I'm going to turn my life around. No more shit. No more, hood stuff. No more hanging with the gangbangers, all that shit. I'm just there's another side to me. And I think these people got me screwed up. You know what I mean? And so I think that's when I failed, and people were anticipating me not being able to bounce back. And that's when I really went to Golden State and absorbed that community and was yo, I'm just going to be a sponge from here on out. And I started getting into tech and things like that. So I would say that was my fail up moment. I never forget, I saw Byron Scott. I think they were playing the Clippers. And I was like, man, coach, I wrote you a letter. And he was like, man, you know how Coach Scott is. He was like, wrote me a letter, yeah. He was like, I was like, yeah, I wanted to send it to you. He was like, no, just tell me what it is.
Right.
Tell me it is what you said. And so I just I basically apologized to him. I was like, yo, bro, as a black man, I should have probably approached the shit differently. You know what I mean? And so one, I want to apologize for not giving you that respect as a legend. And then just basically that's all I really wanted to say.
Right.
Not that, I apologize for not owning up to like meeting you at the table in more of a manly fashion. I was young. I just, just tell him what I was writing in the letter and shit like that. Dude gave me a hug, and then like I wound up getting traded to Cleveland, and now me and him, that's my domino partner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was things like that, man. Just
Right.
learning how to treat yourself, treat people, mistreat people, being okay and being man enough to go apologize and say, you know what, that wasn't me, or that was a part of me that I didn't like. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm grown, so
that's great, man. That's great, man. Because I had some similar stuff with B Scott that we had to iron out, but I definitely respect that. Respect you. We appreciate your time, big dog. We really appreciate your time. And it's been really, really fun, really great, man.
Thank you guys, man. I appreciate it. Anytime. I got to have y'all on my shit next.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Let us know, man.
All
right, man. Be good, bro.
Oh.